Hey guys, it's Rebecca Smith. I am really excited to have you guys here for the Fear Cycle webinar training. And we're going to get started in just a couple minutes. So go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know where you're from. If you are a coach, a parent, or an athlete, and if you're a gymnast, let us know what level. And we will get started shortly. I like to give a couple minutes just so that people can get on, get logged in, get oriented with the chat, and just hang on and we'll get started soon. Everybody, I'm so glad that you guys are starting to introduce yourself. So it looks like we have gymnasts from all over. We've got level 4 to level 10. We have Texas, Cincinnati, more Texas, Minnesota, Seattle, Massachusetts. I am here in California, so it's different times everywhere. We have a diver, nice. So I will dive in. We're on time. Hopefully people will be able to kind of trickle in and join us and introduce themselves. We've got parents, we've got athletes. I don't know if we have any coaches, but I think we probably will have some coaches joining us. Level 8, we've got some Excel kids, awesome. So I will briefly introduce myself in case this is our first time meeting. My name is Rebecca Smith, and I am a sports psychology expert. I call myself a high performance coach, and I specialize in working with athletes age 8 to 18, primarily individual sports. So that's your gymnasts. I work with dancers. I work with cheerleaders. I work with divers, pole vaulters, golfers, tennis players. It's mostly athletes who are training with a team, but competing against themselves. And I, of course, was drawn to this because I was a gymnast. I was also a gymnastics coach. So I am very familiar with fear. Fear is basically something that ran my entire gymnastics career. And I competed personally up to, we've got a coach here, some more gymnasts. Okay, awesome. For those of you just joining us, go ahead and just introduce yourself. Let us know where you're from, if you're an athlete, a coach, or a parent, and your level, so we can kind of know who's here with us. And so I competed up to level 7. I know some of you who are level 10s are like, oh my gosh, just level 7. So here's why. Here's why my gymnastics career got cut off. Because I had mental blocks. I was the kid who, when I got up on the beam for my first meet, I fell, and I think I got like a 5 because I was wobbling in their eyes because I was so nervous. And that just was basically how my competition experience was going to go. So I would get super nervous under pressure to the point where I'd shake and fall and do crazy things. And a lot of people have that going on, but they can, do things really well in the gym. Well, I was not that way. In the gym, I would get mental blocks there too. So especially my back walkover on the beam and my giants, that was what kind of did me in. That and the back handspring on the beam, my back tuck on the floor. I would get to the point where I had already competed the back walkover many times. I had already won beam many times. That was my event. That's the irony, that was the event I hated, but the event that I was the best at. I don't know if any of you can relate, but it was like this love-hate relationship that I was really good on beam when I was good, but when I wasn't, and I was usually pretty scared. So I would be ready to try the skill, ready to do the back walkover, ready. Okay, my coach is yelling at me. I've been up here for 5 minutes, wiping my sweat and scooting my feet and taking a breath and thinking about it and then wiping my feet, taking a breath. Okay, I'm going to go. Coach is yelling. Teammates were like, come on, it's my turn. Get off the beam, or you can do it, or whatever. Even if they were being nice, it was like this super stressful thing. So finally, I'd get my arms up and I'm like, I'm going to go. And boom, it was like I hit a brick wall and I could not get my body to go. And so there were times when I was scared and this would happen, but then there were also times when I wasn't even necessarily scared. It was just that my body would not do what I wanted it to do. So this is something that I talk to kids about all day, every day. And they're like, yeah, that's it. It's not even the fear. Oh, here, I'm going to put my earbuds. Okay, so it's not even the fear. It's the it's just like your body won't go for it. So that's what I specialize in, and that's what I love helping people through. And that's kind of like the first step. So if anybody's feeling blocked or stuck or afraid, that is my favorite thing to untangle and help you fix. And then the next thing is I help build confidence, and then I help you find your flow. And flow is like this amazing magical experience where you're not afraid, you're not self-conscious, you're having fun, you're doing it just for the sake of improvement because you like to. That's what I want every athlete to be able to find, is that, heart level, I love this feeling of succeeding. So we're at the very beginning of that. So if any of you guys are struggling with fear, which I'm guessing you are since you're here, I'm going to give you guys, by the end of this training, at least 3 things. I'm going to help you figure out what perfectionism has to do with fear, how to get out of that cycle of fear, that, gosh, I hope I don't get afraid again. So I'm like already tense because I think I might get afraid. And then to come up with your own system to bounce back and reset when you get a little spooked or when things don't go your way or you make a mistake or you balk or you startle. So, and parents and coaches, since we do have some parents and coaches here, I'm going to make sure that you guys learn how to help your gymnast or your athlete become more resilient and start to break that cycle. And you can figure out what you can do to support them. And then also, so we've got this awesome chat box. So if you haven't already, go ahead and introduce yourself. Let me know who you are, where you're from, what your sport is, just so I can make sure I'm talking to the right ages and the right levels. And if you have questions, I'm going to answer a whole bunch of questions at the end. So as we're going, go ahead and just type them in, and then I'll get to them when we have a chance. So I'm going to switch off my camera and give you my slides here. So the first thing, one thing to say is that at the very end, I'm going to give you a special bonus prize. So hang out with me till the end. It's going to be about an hour. Okay, so that's what I just said. Now, before we go too far into this, I'm going to ask you guys to do me and you a favor and just turn off everything that's going on in the background. I know not everybody can do this, but do yourself a favor and just, turn off the phone. Unless you're watching it on the phone, then don't. Mute things, turn off Skype, turn off the TV, turn off whatever is going on so that you can be fully present for this experience. And a lot of the time we do way too many things at once. And something that it's like a long lost skill of being present. So just be here now, listen to my voice, feel yourself sitting in the chair. Don't be, worried about tomorrow. Just be here. Give me your full attention. I've got all of my notifications turned off, so it's just me and you for the next hour. So if this is something you're uncomfortable with, notice that and do your best to really plug in full out so that we can get the most out of this. Okay, gymnasts, you are in the right place. If you've ever felt like you were going to go for a skill and then you either, just freaked out like I did, or you bailed out in the middle of it, you're in the right place if fear is getting in the way of your performance and your enjoyment of your sport. You're in the right place if you are a perfectionist and you put a lot of pressure on yourself. Now, obviously this says gymnast, but it's athletes. If you're not a gymnast, you can still get something out of this. You're in the right place if you're often in tears in practice, especially when it comes to certain skills. If you've considered quitting because of the fear, that was what eventually happened to me. If you're frustrated because you haven't been improving, even though you physically are able to. If you're worried that the fear will never get better. If you feel out of control. If you've ever held back on an easy skill so you wouldn't have to do the hard skill that comes next. That was one that I did all the time too. If you've ever pretended like you were hurt or kind of milked an injury because you were scared of a skill. If you've ever made a mistake and felt like you were a bad person or letting someone down, that one just breaks my heart. Or if you feel like you've already tried everything and you'll never get better, you are in the right place. There is so much hope. I literally do this all day, every day. And I help kids get their smiles back, get their skills back. So there is hope, I promise. And parents and coaches, you are in the right place if you're not sure how to help your athlete deal with frustration or disappointment. If you feel like you're always saying the wrong thing, which, hopefully you're not, but probably you are, because that's just part of parenting. If you secretly wonder if you're somehow causing your athlete's stress, if you want to help your athlete think more positively, if you want to help your athlete reach their goals, which I'm sure you all do, if you want tools to help your athlete become more mentally tough. So the good news is you're so not alone. Like I said, I'm going to give you tools that will help you kind of turn down the volume on those thoughts and get your skills back. And then hopefully on top of that, you'll get the edge over your competition. So it's not about just digging yourself out of the hole of fear. Like, I want you climbing up a mountain to where you are the most mentally tough kid in the gym. And so here's my quick disclosure. I'm going to give you a lot of information in just a little time. So don't get overwhelmed. I get really excited about this stuff. So just make a decision that you're going to latch on to at least one thing that really resonates with you, that you go, yes, I think that is what I need. That's going to help me. So if, some things don't resonate or don't feel like they'll work for you, that's totally okay. Every single person is different. Everybody's got a different mind and different needs, and you'll know for you what will work. And I just want you to commit to trying something that we talk about moving forward. And then at the end, I'll show you how to get more help. If you like this type of training, if you find this helpful, I'll tell you how to get more of it. All right, so digging into the problem. The main problem is that the human brain is not wired for performance. It's not wired for gymnastics, for diving, for stunting, for pole vaulting. Our brain is not set up that way. It is set up for safety. Our brains really, really want us to stay alive. That is their main purpose. And there's this phenomenon called homeostasis, and you do not need to know that big word, but that means the tendency to stay the same. That's what keeps us alive. Our blood stays the same, our body temperature stays the same, everything about us, the amount of oxygen we get stays the same. Because if our temperature really spikes or really crashes, that's not good. So the brain's job is to keep everything the same. So think about the last time you were doing a really hard conditioning set. Did you feel your brain saying, no, don't do it, stay comfortable, stay the same, get through? Your brain does not want you to build muscle. It does not want anything to change. So that's why those alarm bells start to sound whenever you're doing something that threatens the sameness of your body. So when you get to that fatigue place, when you're conditioning and you get to that place where you're so tired, you do not think you can do any more, and then you do one more, that's when you're actually building muscle. That's when you're building toughness. And that's when you're changing your body. So that's kind of what goes on with your mental toughness and your brain. That every time you're about to change your brain's going to go, no, don't do it. But then you keep moving forward and your brain is changed permanently. Your muscles are stronger. Your brain is better prepared for what is coming next. And here's what happens. This is what happens to me when I compete on balance beam. I have this fight or flight experience. And this is another thing that the brain is responsible for doing. And it keeps us safe and comfortable unless there's a big, huge threat. So, for example, if you were a caveman back in the caveman times and there was a tiger chasing you, your brain would light up in a way that would tell you either got to fight this tiger or you got to get the heck out of here. Those are pretty much your two choices. Meanwhile, what's going on in your brain is your brain is telling your body to take all the blood and put it in your core around your heart and your lungs so that way, if the tiger cuts your arm, you won't bleed too much. It's also telling your lungs to breathe really rapidly and get a whole lot of oxygen in so that if you have to run out of there, you'll be extra powered. It's sending adrenaline to give you extra energy, which kind of makes you shake. It's also narrowing your focus so that you can see the exit route, laser focused, or you can be really aware of where that tiger is. It's making you sweat. It's making you feel like you're going to throw up or wet your pants, because that's what basically you don't want to have any extra weight in there, no extra liquids or fluids. So your body goes, get it out just in case we got to run.
So that's kind of the experience that I would have when I'm getting ready to compete balance beam. I start sweating, I start shaking, my heart starts pounding. I feel like I'm going to wet my leotard. And this is great if I'm trying to outrun a tiger, but this is not great if I'm trying to compete balance beam. So think about if you've ever been on a roller coaster, which I'm sure that you have, and it's kind of the same experience, right? When you're going up, that click, 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 your heart starts to pound, you start to sweat, you get kind of tense. Whether you like roller coasters or you don't like roller coasters, you're going to have a similar experience. But the difference, it's not the heartbeat and it's not the fast breath. The difference is the way you look at it. You either go, wee, oh my gosh, so exciting. My heart's pounding. This feels awesome. I can't wait to go on down the other side. Then there's the people who go, oh my gosh, I'm having a heart attack. I could die on this roller coaster. The only difference is the way you look at it. So that's your first nugget of the day. How do you look at that nervous feeling? Do you look at it like nerves or do you look at it like excitement? And then I'm also going to give you a couple tips on how to kind of bring it down a notch. If you're in that fight or flight, you can't reason with yourself because your brain is like, get me out of here. That's all I need to work on. So the best possible way when you're fully freaking out, and this is for you parents, is just breathing. Saying things like, calm down, it's okay, doesn't help because the part of your brain that can rationalize and strategize and make sense of things is out. It's checked out. It's gone. It's like, I'm not dealing with anything right now. All I need to do is get out of here. So the way you communicate with that caveman part of your brain is through deep breaths. So everybody take a quick deep breath with me. In through your nose and out through your mouth, blowing out all of that air completely and thoroughly. Now do it one more time. Breathing in and breathe out completely. What that does is trigger a relaxation response from your brain. Because if you were standing face to face with that tiger, would you stop and feel your feet on the ground? Would you relax your shoulders? Would you take a nice, slow, deep breath? Probably not. So your brain is going to go, oh, there must not be a tiger. So this is the first thing for that general ramp up of anxiety. Now, what I really want you guys to do is learn how to prevent it from even happening, or at least turn it way, way down. So let's first talk about one of the potential causes of the nerves, which is, my friend, perfectionism. And I have yet to meet a gymnast that didn't fall into this category at least a little bit. Anybody who is a high level, highly motivated individual sport athlete probably has at least a dose of perfectionism. And this person wants to be great. They want to be the best. They don't want to play a game they're not going to win. I don't like playing pretty much any game I'm not going to win, or at least be pretty darn good at. And so this is something I've had to work on to be like, it's really okay. If I don't win, I can still have a good time. But just check in with yourself. Are you the kind of person who's like, I'm not playing that sport. I'm not good at it. I only want to do what I'm really good at. Then you may be a perfectionist. I'm going to tell you a little story about a girl I worked with. Now, any case studies I give, just know that all the names are changed and some of the situations are changed because I really make sure to protect everybody's identity. But so this is our friend Olivia, and she came to me with kind of a lot of fears. And one of them, her major one, was that she had this unpredictable twisting situation where she sometimes would do round off back handspring back layout. Sometimes she would do a full, and she got to the point where she didn't know what she would do. She's standing in the corner going, I think I'm going to do a full. And then she would do a layout, or I think I'm going to do a layout, and she would do a full. And this started to freak her out so much that she stopped tumbling. Like she started, every time she did a back handspring, she'd kind of freak out and stop. And so she and her parents came to me and we started working through it. And we talked through lots of different things, and the thing that I asked her was, did anything change around the time that the twisting went funky? And she said, well, yeah, a couple things. I changed gyms. okay, so there's often a change that's involved. And I said, okay, what's different at the new gym? And she mentioned that there were cute boys at this new gym. And I said, okay, anybody in particular? And she said, yeah, well, there's this one guy I kind of exchanged looks with across the gym and, normal teenage cute boy stuff. And she told me that one day she was doing her back layout. She saw this guy out of the corner of her eye and she went, oh, I'm going to go for a full. So she tried to show off. She went for the full. She usually would twist late. This time, because she thought of it, or no, she would twist early. Because she thought of it late, she twisted late, which ended up being perfect timing. So she stood this skill up better than she ever had, which freaked her out because she was used to landing a little short. She went flying back, landed on her butt, and was completely mortified because this guy had watched her fall, which, any of us can be like, okay, someone fell on their butt in the gym. That's so normal. But this mortified her so bad that it kind of created this little complex around twisting. And she didn't know what she could predict and what she couldn't. So what we did was we realized that it was essentially a choice between being willing to be embarrassed at the possibility of falling and not getting her skills back. So if the most important priority was not being embarrassed, then she probably wasn't going to get her skills back. If the most important priority was getting her skills back, she had to be willing to be embarrassed. So check in for yourself. Is there anything, kind of on the line with getting your stuff back? There's usually a physical component and, a mental, emotional, social component. So that's just one example of a girl. And of course, she was like, no, I want my skills back. I don't care. And so she started going for it and getting a little control back, falling when necessary as part of the learning process. And she got it back as soon as she realized I kind of have to be willing to fail and not just try to be perfect all the time. Okay, what motivates perfectionists? Well, fear of failure, fear of embarrassment, fear of negative social evaluation, fear of letting other people down. A lot of the time, we perfectionists set the bar low because not reaching your goals is not an option. I don't want to fail. I do not want to not reach my goals. I really don't want to not reach my goals. So I've caught myself at times setting goals low because then I know I can get them, which, maybe it sells you short if you do that. A lot of people, a lot of perfectionists especially, they kind of don't set goals because they don't want to have an opportunity to feel like they failed. Another fear that motivates perfectionists specifically is fear of making mistakes. This girl didn't want to fall so badly that she started sabotaging her tumbling. Another thing okay, we've got one, having trouble connecting. Okay. Hopefully connecting your skills or connecting to our training. Hopefully we're doing okay with technology here. Okay. Some of these people, perfectionists, they'll do a good routine and then look up at the scoreboard and be like, oh, that was horrible. That all of their self-worth and satisfaction and confidence comes from what other people think of them, what the judge thinks, what the coach thinks, all of that. So notice for yourself, can you have a good routine that has a bad score and still feel okay, knowing that maybe the judge is having a bad day? Or are you, going to go down the confidence tubes because you are feeling bad because a judge gave you a score that you didn't feel like you deserved? Another thing that is common of perfectionists is this playing not to lose versus playing to win. Now, winning and losing, it's kind of, a weird analogy here because it's not about that. It's when you really don't want to fall, sometimes you hold back because you really don't want to fall. And it's that holding back that makes you fall. So I've seen this over and over, especially with level 10s, these really high level gymnasts who just are not going big because they so badly don't want to fall. Where going big gives you more power, gives you more time to land, gives you a whole lot more. But at the same time, there's this worry that if I go big, I could lose control. And perfectionists like to be in control. So that's a lot of, LaShawn's got it. Okay, good. Okay, well, 5 stays. Okay, Rachel, we'll get back to you in a little bit when we go to questions. Okay, so what happens with perfectionists is that you get afraid of making a mistake, which tenses you up, which makes you less, it makes your body a little bit less predictable, which then makes you make mistakes. So that fear of being imperfect really leads to being imperfect. So I'm going to give you some ways to get over that. Now, here's a little story about two wolves. And this, I'm going to do my best to transmit an old Native American story. Hopefully I won't butcher it. So there's a grandfather and his grandson talking to each other. And the grandfather says, "Grandson, there are two wolves fighting inside of you. One wolf is kind and wise and strong and brave and loving. And the other wolf is fearful and evil and mean and nasty." And the grandson says, "Grandfather, which wolf will win?" And grandfather says, "The one you feed." So if you are feeding your fear wolf, then your confidence wolf will lose. If you're feeding your confidence wolf, then your fear wolf will lose the battle. But a lot of the time, what we do in the gym feeds the fear wolf. Failure, feeling like a failure, being negative, looking at what's going wrong. Those types of things feed that fear wolf. Balking, not going for skills, getting, any of those kind of negative things feed that fear wolf and give it all the power and all the strength. Meanwhile, your little confidence wolf is shrinking and shrinking. So what I do is help to build that confidence wolf up, which makes that fear wolf shrink. Not to say that the fear wolf will ever totally go away, but you want to feed the heck out of that confidence wolf to really give you a good chance of pushing through stuff. So we're going to do a little exercise here. I want you guys to think to yourself about a common negative thought that you have when you're afraid of messing up, when you're afraid of failing, when you're stressed out, when you're feeling afraid, kind of in those negative, the fear wolf is winning moments. What is the common negative thought that you think to yourself? I won't give you any ideas because I'm sure you guys can think of plenty of those negative thoughts. So take a second, think to yourself, and parents and coaches do this too. It's a good little exercise. So once you've come up with that negative thought that you often have, then I'm going to set a timer for 30 seconds. And I'm going to have you guys just think that negative thought over and over and over for 30 seconds. Ready, get set, go. And stop. Okay, now type into the chat how you're feeling right now. Just let me know. Are you feeling strong or are you feeling weak? Do you feel it in your throat? Do you feel it in your chest? Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling happy? Just put in a word or two that lets me know how you're feeling. And I can guess that you're probably feeling a little bit weaker. You're probably feeling a little bummed out. You probably flashed some images in your head of things not going well. So, just notice. Okay, somebody's feeling nervous, discouraged. It felt in my stomach. Yep, I usually get it in my throat and my stomach. Feel tense in stomach and legs. Bad, bummed, vulnerable, defeated. Yeah, there's a lot. Nervous, blah. That's, yeah, okay. Lots of people feeling weak, feeling it throat. So that is annoyed. That's another good one. It's an example of 30 seconds worth of thinking negatively. Now, if you have a 4-hour practice, How many hours of that can you catch yourself being negative, especially when that fear wolf is really roaring? Probably a lot. So just notice what's happening in your body and consider, is this the type of energy that you want to have when you're getting ready to get up on the beam and do a skill? Or, swing something big on the bars? Is this the way that you want to feel? Probably not. So we're going to change that thought. So think, whatever that thought was, I want you guys to turn it into something neutral. So that's basically, let's say if your thought is, I hope I don't fall, I hope I don't fall, I hope I don't fall. You might say something like, I've done it before. I've done this hundreds of times before. I've done this safely before. And what you want to do is, you don't want to switch it to something way too positive, like, I'm going to make it, because then your fear wolf is going to be like, no, you're not. You're not going to make it. And then you just feel even worse, because then you're having an argument in your mind. So the thought you want to replace this negative one with is a thought that's completely neutral. So this is a thought that it doesn't have a no. So it's not like, I'm not going to fall, because then all your brain's going to hear is fall. But it's a fact, something that you can say to yourself that's a complete 100% fact. Like, you don't even want to say necessarily, I'm going to be okay, because you can't really, you're going to probably want to argue with that. So something like, I've done it before, I'll try my best, those sorts of things. So everybody take a second and come up with a thought that's neutral. There's no negative in it. It doesn't have to be positive, but there's no negativity. Okay, so hopefully you guys have had a chance to come up with a new neutral thought. And then we're going to do this one for 30 seconds. And I want you to spend 30 seconds really believing this thought, like believing it to your core, this new neutral thought. Okay, ready? Get set, close your eyes, and go. Think that thought over and over and really try to believe it. And stop. Okay, now what do you guys feel? So type in what feels different. Is anybody feeling happier? When I first did this, I had like a little side smile, Do you feel lighter? Do you feel stronger? Do you feel more peaceful? Write in whatever is kind of going on in your body. What's the energy like? What's what did you see in your mind? Okay, so encouraged, confident. What else? Calm. Okay. So you might not be like full flying off the handle excited, but what we want, calm, confident, reassured, better, stronger, believe in myself, like I want to be in the gym right now. Awesome. Yeah, so kind of lighter, stronger, confident. I would say that is probably what we're aiming for, right? If you can get yourself in the gym feeling lighter, stronger, calm, and confident, what would be possible? And this is 30 seconds, just 30 seconds. And we're not even going positive. We're just, getting it to reality, basically getting out of the worst case scenario and landing in reality. So if you can train yourself to do this by learning to catch those negatives, especially think about when they would come up. When would you go into negativeville? Is it right before a certain skill? Is it when you have a certain coach? Is it on a certain day of the week? Know for you what those triggers are when you're typically a little more negative, and be prepared to go in there thinking about the facts, thinking about the neutral thought. And that's what those types of things, being ready, have a plan. Okay, if I get negative, this is what's going to remind me. I'm going to wear my special wristband. And every time I look at it, I'm going to say to myself, I've done this before, I can do it again. Come up with something that you can see with your eyes when you're in a stressed out place. So if you know that you usually get frustrated and then go for your water bottle, put something on your water bottle. Put, a sticker with like a happy face or something so that you'll see it and go, oh yeah. And then you give yourself 30 seconds of neutrality to kind of calm down and get into that confident place. So if this worked for you, make a commitment to start retraining your brain. Now, like we know about the brain, your brain wants to stay the same. So if you are used to being negative, it's going to want to be negative. That's what it's used to. That's what it likes. It doesn't want to change. So your job is to keep trying to be neutral, You have to remind your brain over and over and over, and sometimes push through a little discomfort when, like, darn it, I want to be negative right now. And then you just say to yourself, I've done this before, I can do it again. Whatever that thought is, it takes repetition. So, but make a commitment to do something that'll remind you to repeat this exercise. Okay, now how to get out of the fear of fear cycle. Let's see here. We'll move on to a little case study first. So this is Rachel, also not her name. And she was another beam case. I know, us beam girls. So hopefully you guys can relate if you're a different sport or a different event, but the beam tends to bring out the best in us, so to speak. But so she started losing her easy skills. She was working on back handsprings on the high beam. She was training level 7, and she started losing her handstand on low beam. This girl, after years and years of doing handstands on the low beam, she all of a sudden could not hit vertical. She just couldn't do it. She didn't know what was going on. Her coaches were frustrated. She was frustrated. She tried visualizing. She tried breathing. She tried working harder. It just didn't work in any kind of lasting way. And she basically was like about to give up. And then we discussed what was really going on. So she had flown through the levels. This girl had had a ton of success early on. She got up to level 7 in just a couple years of competing, because she was the kind of kid that the coach would be like, try this, and she'd get it. Make this correction, she'd do it. She was like this dream girl to work with. Someone's got to go to practice. This will be on repeat. Yes, you will get a recording, and definitely come back and finish it and let me know if you have any questions. But so this girl, she had had all this success, and she'd gone through all these levels really quickly. And although her little body could do these skills confidently, her brain was getting nervous, because she knew that once she got that back handspring on the high beam, she was going to have to do harder things, because that's what kept happening. So somehow subconsciously, we realized she blocked up on her handstand, because the way that her coach ran practice was she'd have to hit her handstands, then she'd have to make her cartwheels, then she'd have to make her back walkovers, then she'd have to make her back handsprings. So if she spent 20 minutes failing on handstands, by the time she got to back handsprings, she only had time for a couple before they had to rotate. And this we sorted out through, just figuring out, when does this come up and what changed and what happened. And so ask yourself, are you perhaps getting stuck on skills that are easier because you don't trust that you'll be ready to try the hard skills that your body might be ready to do? So that was the case with her. And what happened with her was she really didn't want to let her coaches down, which is the irony, because her coaches are so frustrated because she can't do a darn handstand. But she didn't want to have to say to her coach, I don't feel comfortable doing a back walkover, back handspring. She just didn't know how to communicate that to her coaches. And so instead of having to have that conversation, she just had this funky handstand. So once we learned how to spot that, we also talked to her about, well, hey, if you don't feel comfortable, what could you say? What are some ways that you can communicate and really take care of yourself so that you can build the confidence you need and not be too quick to move through the skills if you don't feel comfortable doing it? So I know that might be a little controversial, because obviously we all want to get better. We all want to move forward. And it just, sometimes we need to take the pressure off a little bit, build some confidence up. And then of course she was able to get her harder skills and move through the levels. But with this constant pressure she was feeling, it was starting to hold her back. All right. So now we'll talk a little bit about Sophia, also not her real name. She broke both arms vaulting. And so I talk to athletes all the time who have had injuries, because that's a pretty, common reason why you might start to lose confidence on a skill. So what happened was she was on the vault runway. She had been running a little faster because she had been training her run. And all of a sudden, she was coming in a little too close to the board. So her coach said, hey, you're running really well. Why don't you take a couple steps back and then try it again? And then she did. She vaulted. She broke her arms. So then it was not just a little injury. It ended up being surgery and she was basically out for a whole year. Then she came back and we started working together as she was easing back into vaulting. She was completely cleared by the doctor, which I always make sure you've got to check that out. Make sure that the doctor says, yes, you can do everything. So she was totally clear physically, but she kept getting stuck on the run. She could not get her run figured out. And what we realized, long story short, was that she realized that once she ran correctly, she'd have to go over the table. And she was so scared that she just kept, screwing up her steps, making the steps weird, because she didn't trust that she could be okay to ask her coach to go a little slowly, to help her ease back in a way that didn't freak her out too badly. So we basically created a whole confidence ladder of the order in which she would approach her vault. So day one, it's just the run. You get your run, you get your steps perfect. And even if your coach is like, you must vault, we figured out a way to communicate with the coach that today we're just running. And then the next week it was just hitting the board. And then it was a simple version of the vault so that she could start to build back the confidence without feeling like she was going to be forced into that harder skill. So it's very similar to the girl we talked about before. And as soon as she felt like she had a plan and was mentally prepared, she had her anxiety go down significantly. And there's a study that showed that mental preparation is the very most important variable in whether or not gymnasts feel anxiety. And this is athletes, period. I work with also performers, singers, dancers. And if you feel mentally prepared, anxiety goes down significantly. So she had a plan. If the coach cooperates, this is what I do. If the coach doesn't cooperate, this is what I do. So she knew that no matter what was thrown at her, she would be okay, which took away the anxiety and allowed her to move through her skills a lot better. Okay, so this is something that perfectionists don't like when I say. Something you must do is legalize failure. And I actually worked with a woman who was training for a big exam, and she was so terrified that she would fail this exam. It was almost as if she would die. If she failed this, she was going to die. She put so much into, I must pass this test, that she was having these physiological reactions of stress. And so I said, okay, well, what if you fail? And she looked at me like, I told you I would die. And I went, okay, well, if you didn't die, if you failed and you didn't die, what would you do? And she kind of had to sit for a second and go, what? Gosh, I hadn't even considered that. So of course, failure feels like a death sentence if you have no idea what you would do if you failed. So if your biggest fear is falling on beam in a big meet, then you got to say, okay, if I fall, what will I do? How will I deal with it? How will I be mentally prepared for this situation so that I don't have to be life and death terrified of it happening? So that's what the bounce back routine is about. And we'll get into that pretty shortly here. If you have a plan for failure, you don't have to fear it. So here we go, creating your system. Now, when you guys signed up, you got a little worksheet. And I'll tell you kind of how I went through it with this Bella, which is also not her name. But she was having an issue with balking on one of her skills on beam. She would think she was going to go and she wouldn't go. And so then she was terrified all day at school about going to beam and balking. And then she'd walk into the gym and be terrified that she was going to bail out of her skills again. So what we did was I said, okay, what if you do? What will you do? Kind of like that, have a plan for failure so that you don't have to be terrified of it. So we talked about, what helps you feel relaxed? How do you reset? And we figured out that she would, if she balked on her skill, she would get off the beam. She would take a deep breath. She'd feel her feet on the ground. She would get present. Then she'd climb up, do exactly one split handstand, not 3 or 4 or 12. She would do one split handstand, feel the finish, step in, swing, say go, and jump. So that was her routine. Every time she balked, she would get off, breath, feet, present, handstand, finish, step, swing, go, jump. So we choreographed this whole routine. We called it her balk routine. And I said, I hope you balk this week because then you'll get a chance to practice your routine. And she looked at me like I was crazy. But what happened was she didn't even balk once because she wasn't afraid of it happening. And it was the tension, the fear of the failure that was actually creating the balking to begin with. So, and then, if she did, she knew what to do. So that's what we're going to do next here. Figuring out how to fail fast. You balk instead of going, oh no, my whole week is over. It's all ruined. I will die alone. Total like worst case scenario freak out to boom, snap back into place, know exactly what to do, back on the beam, swing, go, jump, right back in. Because the best athletes out there, they're not the people who don't fail. They're the people who fail quickly. So I want you guys to have a system, to turn those failures into your greatest asset. So this is a kind of chopped up version of the worksheet that you guys got when you signed up. And I'm just going to go through it super quick because I do want to get to some questions. So basically you come up with any obstacles that could come up in training or competition that will sideline you. So these are things like maybe you're really worried, you're working on getting recruited to college, you show up at the meet and there's the coach for Stanford staring down your beam. Instead of going, oh my gosh, I have to be perfect, freak out, you go, okay, I had a feeling this would happen. I knew that this would make me nervous. And this is what I will do. I use this coach to be my reminder, to trigger the certain thoughts that help me to do my very best beam routine. I had a girl who was a swimmer that I was working with, and she had an ex-boyfriend who would show up at meets and give her this stare down, which would get her completely flustered and distracted, and she'd do poorly. And so I said, okay, next time you see him, he's going to be your reminder to do your mental cues that get you into the perfect state of mind for competition. So he's going to be your biggest obstacle, or your biggest asset. So I hope he's there because he'll remind you to focus. And she kind of laughed and she saw him. She remembered, she did her stuff, and she had a great swim. So coming up with any of the obstacles that might happen to derail you in competition or training, and then make a plan for a lot of different solutions for that problem. Like I said, having a plan makes it not so scary. Then the cool down, this is basically what Bella was doing, that she decided and she got to be disappointed. If she balked on a skill, she had a couple of breaths to just feel disappointed. And so she gave herself 2 breaths to be disappointed, and then she will let them go. And that's important, that you give yourself space to feel what's going on. If you feel angry, if you feel sad, if you feel upset, if you feel frustrated, if you try to just kind of push that down, get up and force it, it's not going to go away. And you're going to have that energy and that tension stuck in your body. So instead, maybe for you, if you get angry or frustrated with yourself, you give yourself an angry walk to the drinking fountain where you're so mad and so disappointed, and you take a couple steps, you take 10 steps just being mad. And then you take a drink, you wash it down, and your whole walk back is all about being positive. It's, cycling through those neutral thoughts, getting something in place that will help you to refocus so that when you get back up on your event, you're ready to go. But it is important to give yourself a predetermined amount of time to feel your feelings after you make a mistake, so that then it's over, you've assessed it, and you can let it go. And letting go is the most important part of that. You do have to feel it. You got to plan for it. You got to feel it, and then you got to let it go. So if you have trouble letting things go, I recommend actually getting a piece of paper out and writing down, what are those frustrations? What are those feelings? What are those emotions? What is it that's kind of clouding up your experience? And then wad it up and physically let it go into the trash can. I've had kids who get really nervous before meets actually write down all their nervous thoughts, wad it up and drop it into a trash can as they walk into the meet. So they start with a completely clean slate. And then the final tool that I'll give you guys is the idea of reflection. Now, my overachieving clients and students, I tell them, if you really want to be an overachiever, you will reflect after every single practice and every single meet. And you ask yourself these 3 questions at least. What went well? What could have gone better? What did you learn? And that what went well is you give yourself a chance to look at your successes. Even the worst meat of your life, you can look back and go, I did okay here, I did okay here, I did okay here. That way you're not just like beating yourself over the head with a hammer. You can at least have a positive note to build a little confidence. Then you look at what could have gone better, kind of objectively, not like I'm a bad person, but I could have done this and I could have done that and this didn't go so well. And then the most important question, and the most hokey one that most people don't like to ask themselves, is what did you learn? And this one makes it all worth it. All of those mistakes, all of those failures usually translate into the biggest learning experiences. If you keep falling in a certain way on the same skill, then you've got something you can pick up from that. If you get really negative and have a horrible practice, then you can learn, okay, when I'm in a bad state of mind, I don't do so well. Those are really valuable lessons if you stop long enough to allow yourself to learn them. Then it makes all the setbacks and all the failures completely worth it. Otherwise, you're just going, I failed, I'm terrible, too bad, I'm going home. Versus, okay, this is what I've learned today, and this is what I'm going to change tomorrow. So what can the support squad do? Coaches and parents, take the pressure off. Pressure is the biggest culprit for fear. It's like, it's got to happen tonight, or it's got to happen tomorrow, it's got to happen now. If you can just take the pressure off and allow kids to rebuild from where they are, that allows the rebuilding to go a lot faster. Also, going back to our caveman brain, don't say just go for it. Don't say you can do it or calm down. Instead, ask what they need. It looks like you're nervous right now. What can I do? What do you need? How can you build confidence? What can we do? Can we set up a drill? Can I give you a spot? What do you need here? Instead of just go for it, getting frustrated and putting pressure on, typically when a kid's in a blocked place is not helpful. Breaking it down and getting creative. Just coming up with something that they can do to feel okay, to feel like they're moving forward, even if they're not doing the skill that they've competed over and over and over. If they're doing something, they're doing a drill, they're doing it with a spot, that can start to rebuild the confidence. And parents, your job is to love unconditionally. Basically, your job is food and love, not coaching. Unless you are the coach, then that's a tricky one, but people get through it. But just loving their effort, not praising, you got first, this is great, you got a 9, oh my gosh. Instead, it's, you worked really hard out there and I'm proud of you. Because that's really what we want to hear. We don't want to hear that, my mom only loves me when I get a 9, which I know isn't the truth, but it's easy to think that if that's the feedback that I'm getting. Okay, so I'm going to open it up for Q&A here. And just after, so you guys can type in some questions. I'm happy to answer. And then after we do some questions, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how you can get more help if you want it. And so here's our little recap. Decide which wolf you want to feed and legalize failure. Create a plan to fail fast and bounce back. And the bonus, which is coming up soon, so hang in there. So if you have any questions, go ahead and fire them off in the chat. And so a lot of people ask me, what else can I do? What else can I do to get over this fear? Mental choreography, I love. This is actually giving your mind a job so that it knows exactly what to do when those things come up that get in the way, so that you're super consistent. Imagery, I teach this as well, how to do it very effectively. So there's a right way and a wrong way to do imagery. But if you do it the right way, it can really build confidence and help you overcome blocks. Reprogramming your thoughts. So I gave you a little taste of that. Managing energy. So sometimes energy can be the issue, like too much energy on the beam or not enough energy on the vault. So I help kids, figure out what's the energy that you need and how do you find it. And then getting control over your mind and your body. This is huge. So something that I do to help kids do this is I have a special fear training series. Oh, we've got a question here. Okay, so I'll answer it in just a sec. And this is 6 weeks of training. So if you like this format, if this works for you, this is something that I do with my athletes in the Perform Happy community. And it's basically it's an entire online mental training, toughness community, training center, whatever you want to call it. And I've got 6 trainings specifically on fear that digs into, the competing commitments. We talked about a little bit of like, what do you want the very most? And what's getting in the way of you doing this skill? we set goals, we start moving forward, we figure out how to communicate with other athletes and with your coaches. We learn how to do imagery and mental choreography, come up with a mental game plan. So that is all available to you, and I'll tell you how to get a hold of that in a minute. And I'm going to answer Rebecca's question. I am having fear of back tumbling and connecting my tumbling on floor. I've competed round off flip flop back tuck. Now I'm scared to do a flip flop. How can I get my skills back? Okay, so I'm going to give you the quick version. Usually there are at least two layers to fear. So there's the physical part, and then there's the mental part. And the physical part, it's about building confidence from where you are. And this is something that I go into in super depth in the special fear training series. And you essentially figure out, how do you know if you're going to go or not go? And if you know you're not confident enough to go, even if you think you should be able to because you've done the skill before, you have to take it back a step. So what I would ask is, what can you do today? So you're scared to flip-flop. That's something I hear all the time. That darn flip-flop or back handspring or flick-flack or whatever everybody calls it. Those get so tricky. So the way that you start is you ask yourself, where am I now? So where am I now? Maybe it's just a round off and a stop and a flip-flop with a spot. And if that's what it is, then that's what it is. And you figure out exactly what you can do confidently, and then what's the next step. And that's that step that you feel a little nervous, but you think you can do, and the key here is not pushing too hard. So I have this whole training on exactly how hard to push, when to back off, how to start to know yourself so that you can, like our vaulter, so you can know when to say, hey coach, can I get a spot or can I get another mat? Because it really takes progressions. And even though your body can physically do the skill, if your mind doesn't feel confident enough, you have to start from scratch and rebuild. So that's the physical part. And then there's also the mental, emotional, social part. So there's usually some kind of a transition, some kind of pressure, something that's going on that triggered it, that is creating a competing commitment, basically. So that's something you want to look into is, when did this start happening? And of course, there's the physical part, but, are you feeling like your coaches are putting too much pressure on you? Are you having social issues? Is there bullying? Are you having trouble with teammates? So those are the types of questions to ask. And okay, so Rachel's asking, I don't know if I want to go level 6 or level 7. So let's see, are you asking, can you help me learn to decide which level I should do next? My coaches think I might be ready for 7, but I'm not confident in that yet. I have 8 months before I have to compete at that level. Okay, Rachel. So I would say if you're struggling with fear at all, then what you probably want to do is just one day at a time. You just do what's in front of you. And this is something that a lot of people kind of get stuck on, is wanting to know the future. I'm so guilty of this. Like, I want to know, it's 8 months out. I got to know, my coaches want me to make a decision. I got to figure it out. What if you just did tomorrow, and you take steps forward every single day, pushing your comfort zone, trying to move systematically forward in a way that you're always pushing yourself. You're always, feeling like you're getting out of your comfort zone. You're not staying stuck. And then take the pressure off. What's the worst that could happen if you have to do level 6 again? What's the worst that could happen if you have to do level 7? Sometimes doing writing can be really helpful. I always suggest that my clients start a mental toughness log or a journal, whatever you want to call it, where you actually write out your thoughts. What are the pros? What are the cons? And if you're feeling pressure, that usually has a little bit of an, it gives skills trouble. So if you can take the pressure off, at least temporarily, that's going to give you a better chance of being ready for level 7 if you don't feel like you have to be. So, okay, Melissa's asking, my daughter's very scared to catch the high bar. She's peeled over a regular mat as well as over the pit. Since then, she's taken several steps back on trying other new skills, back walk over on the beam, back tuck, etc. Is it common for one fear to lead to others throughout the gym? Yes, super, super common. Because what happens is it's like the wolves. The fear wolf gets really strong. And anytime that she starts to feel the fear, she goes, oh no, I don't know what to do. And what the brain does in this situation, there's two things that make the brain tell the body to stop. If the brain senses that there will be pain, like my vaulter, her brain thought she was going to be in pain. So her brain would go, nope, we're not doing this. And the other thing is if the brain senses the unknown. So if the brain doesn't know what's going to happen, then it goes, nope, we're not doing this. Sorry, body, I'm going to have to stop you here. And if there's this unknown of, I'm not sure if I'm going to get hurt, I'm not sure if my coaches are going to catch me if I fall, anything that's unknown can kind of ramp up that fear wolf. So usually there's some other issues going on, and that's like the other layers. So yeah, you do want to rebuild from where she's confident now, but I would definitely want to dig into what are the emotional factors, what are the transition factors, when there are a lot of changes going on that can make a difference. So yes, totally common and absolutely overcomeable. Okay, Laura's saying, I'm feeling depression from my last meet. How do I feel better about it? So that's a tricky one. And really, anytime that you feel super, wrapped up in that negativity, the quickest thing I can answer with is that you find the neutral thought and you reflect. Ask yourself those three questions. What went well? What didn't go so well? What did I learn? And then you will let it go, because it's something you can either learn from or you can stay bummed out about. And if you stay bummed out about it, you get weaker, less strong, less confident, and your skills suffer. Okay, Belinda says, I'm a coach. I have a gymnast that won't back handspring on bare beam. We'll do it on a mat, but we'll balk every time we try to upgrade. She's never hurt herself, is very capable of doing the skill. We've been at this stage for a year. Where do I go from here? Okay, so if you've done the physical stuff, the first thing I would say is there a half a step? Can you, and this might sound totally crazy, but can you add a sting mat? Can you do something to get her to move forward? Even if it's just a hair forward, that's kind of what needs to happen. So that's on the physical side. And then a lot of the time with kind of a recurring thing like this, there's something else, like fear of embarrassment, fear of failure, perfectionism, fear of letting people down. There's something going on there that maybe is a layer deeper that we'd want to address. But for you, the coach, see if there's, sometimes it's like 8-inch mat or no 8-inch mat. Well, what about a 4-incher? What about a 4-incher with a sting mat? It sounds totally dumb, but I've seen that be the difference. Like add a spot, give her something, but get her to just back down a little bit. Something that can get her moving in the right direction. And if that's not working, then it's definitely time to address, some of the other stuff. Okay, I'm going to take one more question and then I'm going to dive into a couple other things. Can you help me learn to decide which level I should do next? My coaches think I might be ready for 7, not confident in that yet. 8 months. Oh, we already talked about that. Okay, awesome. So moving along, I want to tell you guys a little bit about the community that I host online. And what it is basically a community of athletes, coaches. Coaches actually don't have a setup yet, but I can't wait to get that launched. So right now it's just athletes and parents. And it's all about the trainings. Becky's asking, missed the first half, was a webinar? Yes, it was recorded. And I'll send out a replay to everybody who is registered. So if you want to continue to dig into some of these layers, we've got courses, and this course, the special course on fear, which it's a 6-week course, but you could literally do it in a weekend if you're super motivated. I also have parent courses in there. So all these mental toughness training tools on breathing, neutralizing negativity, how to get over fear and skill loss, building confidence, getting motivated, improving focus, overcoming anxiety, imagery, etc. Tons and tons of tools that you can get right away. Parent courses, so this helps you to figure out how to talk to your child if your child is struggling. There's a mobile app, so every single training is available on your phone, so you can listen to it while you drive to practice. The goal here was to make it as user-friendly, portable, and flexible as possible. And I also have, you get access to me. So just like you guys have asked me questions here, all of my members can ask me questions at any time, and you are my first priority. You're the first email that I answer. You're the people I get back to right away. And you can say, this is what I'm going through. What do I do? I've got an elite athlete who's, considering, do I keep going? Do I go level 10? And I'm kind of helping her. I'm guiding her through that entire process. And it's, as you go through fear, you go, okay, I couldn't do this. What do I do? My coach wants me to do this and I can't, I'm not sure. And I give you ongoing guidance to help you reach your goals. And then there's also live training. So every month I do a parents Q&A where parents can ask me anything. And then also regular group training. So right now I'm doing weekly live trainings on fear, which are all recorded. So just in case you're worried that you can't attend live because you have super crazy workout schedule, totally fine. Everything's recorded and then you can ask me questions. And we do every week trainings. We've got fear, we're building confidence, and we're learning about flow. And then as you guys need more stuff, you tell me, this is what's going on, teach me this. And then that's going to be my next live recorded session. So this is what the cost is. It's $49 a month for the guidance, the trainings, everything in the vault, or $4.99 a year. And if you do that, then you get a one-on-one coaching session with me and 2 months free. But here is the super good news. Because you guys are here, I am going to give you $100 off. So that's for training special. So you can go ahead and click that button if you want in, and your price will end up being $39 a month or $3.99 a year. And the yearly, you still get your free months and your one-on-one coaching session. So if you guys feel like this type of training works for you and you can learn from this, awesome. I want you guys to come in and, dig into the fear stuff, like really go into those different layers with me in the trainings and all that other stuff that can help you move forward. So that's the final bonus that you get to save $100 if you can sign up in the next 24 hours. So this is one of my athletes in the Perform Happy community. Her mom just sent this and was thrilled because her daughter finally caught the high bar. And they did, I kind of coached them through the rebuilding process. And then she was able to get rid of the mats, jump to the high bar on the first try, and everybody was thrilled. So I will give you guys an opportunity to ask me any more questions specifically about the Perform Happy membership community. And is there more than one-on-one training session? So if you join us in the community, and you do it as an annual member, then you get one training session with me. And then you also get all the online stuff. And really, I'm going to tell you a secret. When I work with people one-on-one about fear, I essentially do the same things over and over, which is kind of why I came up with the online version. Is I realized the same stuff works. Of course, when you're with me one-on-one, you get my intuition on the issue, but for the most part, it's all kind of the same rooted stuff. So if you go through my 6-week training in the course, you pretty much get what you get one-on-one. But then of course, if you want to do one-on-one stuff, that's available too. Absolutely. That you can sign up through my website for one-on-one coaching. But a lot of the time I've found that, getting in and watching those trainings and interacting with me on the online platform gets people through it. We've had a lot of good success in there. So if you want more than one, you can definitely, move forward. So, here's some, let's see, you guys feel free to ask questions. Who's it for? So there are a lot of things out there like workbooks and other online things that are really specifically for athletes. This is for athletes and or their parents. And it's, I've got athletes from age 7 up to age 18, and everybody can find what they need there. And then it's also, the parents can be supported, the athletes can be supported, and, it's for everybody. If you're signing up as an athlete who's going to be doing the process by yourself, totally fine. If you're a parent who's going to lead your young child through it, that works too. I have setups for all of those options. Refund policy. So if you are not sure and you just want to pop in, check it out. There's a 30-day refund, no questions asked, 100% of your money back, because I really stand behind what I do. And if you're not happy, that's fine. I'll give you your money back. And what's in the training vault? So I kind of briefly went over that. But that is basically, I've been working with athletes for over 15 years doing live trainings, doing exercises, and I've got videos of all of my exercises, worksheets, things that you can do with your team, things that you can, parents can do with your kids. And you basically go in and figure out what's holding me back. Is it confidence? Is it fear? And then you go into that area and it gives you every single thing I have, my whole arsenal of tools. And you can basically access it as you need it. And then of course you go in and you go, this is my problem. And you write me a little note. And then I go, here, check this out. It's in this part of the training vault. I will direct you to exactly what you need to work on next. So you don't have to feel like I'm training myself. Like, no, I'm actually training you by pointing you to what you need to do next. Okay, now some people ask, what if I don't have a mental block? Is this just for people who have a mental block? Nope, it is not. Because like I said, we've got like the first stage of digging yourself out of the fear hole. And then you're kind of on firm ground, and that's where we build confidence. So that's my next series of live trainings, which is going to start in a couple weeks, is all about building confidence. And then after that, we're going to go on to my whole formula for finding flow. And that's that my magical, not self-conscious, totally confident, flowing with the sport. You know, really like when you watch those college gymnasts just stick. That's flow. You know, just nailing it. There are certain characteristics that scientists have actually found. It's called flow theory, if you want to look it up, that if you do certain things, you are more apt to find flow. So if you want more flow, I'm going to do a whole series of trainings on exactly what you have to do to prime your mind to be mentally prepared to find flow. And so this is something I mentioned earlier. Here's another question people ask is, does it have to be parent-led? So no, but if you have a 7-year-old, I'm guessing you probably are going to want to guide your child through the stuff, help them to do the exercises, ask them the questions. And if you are 15, 16, 17, and you don't want to be dealing with your parent, and you don't have time to be dealing with your parent, totally fine. We get that set up in the first couple days. You know, I'll send you out your first email that says, who's leading the training? Is it the parent or is it the athlete? And then you click that link, and then that gets you all set so that you're in the athlete zone. And then I take care of you like you're an athlete, or I take care of you like you're a parent guiding your athlete. So either way, you can definitely benefit. What if we can't make the live trainings? This is an issue I hear because you guys are super busy. Okay. Oh, Carly's asking, the monthly package, are we committed to a yearly term? No, it's month to month, and like I said, it's a refund after the first month before the end of the first month if you're not happy. And if you sign up monthly, there's no commitment beyond, just month to month. So let's see. What if we can't make the live trainings? That's what I was talking about. If you can't make the live trainings, you're not alone. Most people can't. So everything is recorded and put in a really easy way to find so that when you have, a free 15, 20, 45 minutes, if you're driving to a meet or if it's the weekend and you have some downtime, you can pull it up and go through it. And I suggest, just kind of getting in the habit of every time you're on the way to the gym, you listen to it. You listen to one of the videos, you listen to one of the trainings, and you kind of just prime yourself with the good stuff so that when you get to the gym, you're in a really good space. Most people are very, very busy, but you can always kind of carve out, 15-minute chunks throughout your week to spend on mental training. Here's another one of my clients who her daughter was really blocked up on a couple of different events. And just through working with me in the community, she started making progress and just became a lot happier in general, taking the pressure off. And she felt very relieved. Her mom felt really relieved too, because her daughter was no longer this like super stress ball. And that is it. So if you guys have any more questions, feel free to send them over. And I'm so glad that you were able to join me today. I hope I was able to give you something that you can apply in the next week that will get you moving forward. And any questions, reach out. Thanks again for being here. Are the webinars normally on Tuesday nights? No, the webinars right now are on Wednesday nights, but that may change. So we've got Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific for the Fear series. And what I'll do is as soon as we've got I'm going to keep the doors open to have some more members join before we start the Confidence series. And then when I close it, I'm going to send a survey out to make sure that all the members can tell me when's the best availability. And then I'll make them for when the most people are available. And then everything's obviously recorded for if you can't make it. All right. So I'm going to sign off. Thank you so much for joining me. And I wish you all the best in overcoming fear.